So, good evening, everybody, and we welcome you all to the Warriors Journal. And yes, the surprise today is in the Warriors Journal. Normally, we had every doctor come and present to us some great knowledge, some great experiences. And today is even more special because I have with us two special warriors who've been on the journey themselves. And today they're here with us to share their story of how they've been on their journey and what they did differently. Well, like I said, I've been reading about so much about them, and I'm super excited to be here. And in a synopsis, I'm going to be introducing each of them to you. So, as we all know, our very own Anandlal Banerjee, a very loved gentleman from the community, retired DGP of Uttar Pradesh. If I have to share a few words with him, an upright man, a man with great integrity and purpose, a man full of life, I think, such a strong sense of justice and a great human being. Anandji, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have and share screen with you. And of course, I know Anandji through the community. We had the opportunity to discuss, talk to each other, and share some few moments. And of course, I've gained a lot of knowledge from him through the Warriors Journal in our little interactions prior to this. And on the other side, the man right below is our very own Mr. Kamal Shah. We've all known him in our own special way, and I'm so excited to meet this lovely man because I've heard so much about him over the years, and I'm going to share a few words with him for those of you who not met him before. Okay, so this is how the community describes you, Mr. Kamal, okay? A man known for his simplicity and humility, a man on a crusade to improve dialysis and gave birth to India's largest dialysis network, a man who created a forum for dialysis patients to live a normal life, and I strongly believe a man with a great purpose and great vision. And most importantly, I think something that I've been told by a lot of people is one of the most nicest human beings you could ever meet. So once again, such a pleasure to be with both of you over here, and let's go on your journey, okay? So like I said, I've actually documented their journey, and it was such a privilege when I documented their journey because it's such a great journey they've been on. And this session that you guys are watching is basically to understand the perspective of employment, career opportunities, and different ways that our warriors have dealt with certain difficulties that we probably face in our own lives. And we hope to take inspiration from their journey, take a little bit of passion from their journey, and kind of tweak it a little bit in our own little lives and create that difference in the life that we live in. And the most important thing is these men have a passion and zest for life. And that's something I'm sure that we're going to be taking away with us by the end of the session. So, Anandji, this is a very impromptu session. We can go very informal. I'm going to share a synopsis of your life, and this is what I got to understand. At any point of time, if you think I've got some detailing wrong, you can stop me and correct me and change those detailings, and same with you, Kamal. And I'd like to start with Anandji first. Okay. So what I understand from your life story, Mr. Anand, I'm going to unmute you right now. Can you unmute yourself, Anandji? Thank you.
Done.
So life seemed promising. You seemed super strong. And I remember you saying this word, I thought my body was imperishable. Okay. And there came in the year 2002, when things took a little bit of turn. And the first symptom that you had was your creatinine moving to about 1.2, 1.3, which actually didn't seem a little too alarming for you in the initial phase. And I also remember you having this little confession that you actually made to me, saying the one thing that I never did was I was not a person who checked my BP normally, and I think that was something that you did take responsibility for. And that's the first time probably you've gone and met a nephrologist. At that point of time, your posting was IG, right? And from 2002 to 2003, I'm assuming that your journey was figuring out your physical health, and you were still working and in the same posting. In 2004, you had a very different incident and episode in your life where you went for a golf tournament. And if I remember, it was in Calcutta. And there you had an episode, and this would have been about December. For those of you who want to get a visible glimpse of the life, I'm going to go as much as detail. December 2004, you had an incident where you had a puking episode, and that was around your birthday, around that is 26th of December, if I've got that right. And then you came back to your native your place that you reside. You went and met the doctor, and we came to know your creatinine had jumped to 17.
Yes.
You were asked to do an immediate admission. And on that note, you told the doctor, can I come back tomorrow? And you go back on the 30th of December 2004, and your dialysis started immediately. And I think it was during that time you were also done a nephroectomy for the cancer that was found in your kidney. And this happened again in 2004. So that was a lot to deal with 2004. I'm going to come back and ask you a lot more detail, but let me go on your journey. 2005, you had your first transplant, and I also remember you saying 2005 was not a very easy year for you. You had a lot of issues that you were dealing with. In fact, you did tell me that it was probably one of the most difficult years that you have been through on your journey. So you finished your first transplant in 2005, and life was decent in 2006, 2007, and there jumps in 2008, where you had a fall and you broke your hip bone. And this was a steroid-based problem that you faced, and the fall was because of that.
That's called AV necrosis.
Thank you for that. And in spite of the fall, I have no idea where you had this inspiration. You're on a wheelchair. You served on a wheelchair for a man.
Yes, yes.
His body was imperishable. Served in a wheelchair. In 2011, he was promoted as ADG. And in 2013, he went to become the DG. And on the 28th of February 2014, it is such a pride for me to share the screen with the DGP of Uttar Pradesh. And that was 28th February 2014. And right when you got this post of the DGP, I remember you telling me you felt a little unwell during that time.
Yes.
You had protein loss. And just to check this time, you also had your creatinine moved to 1.6. And following that, you had a fall in November 2014, right? And that fall became a little alarming, and you went to check your creatinine because obviously you were in the hospital. Your creatinine showed
November 2014.
Yeah, and your creatinine showed 4, and you were facing an antibody rejection. So that's pretty much what was happening. And so December 2014, you got back to dialysis, and you retired as at DGP Uttar Pradesh in December 2014. But please note, this was not because of his journey back on dialysis, but this was because Mr. Anandlal has served his full period, and it was time for him to retire. So, and then in 2015, you had your second transplant, and 2016, you were back to life and back to normalcy. Okay, I'm going to come back to your journey post 2016, and I'm going to ask you a few questions before that, and then I'll go on to Kamal's journey as well, and then we'll intersect and ask you guys some questions to give it your own perspective. The first thing that I wanted to ask you was, for a man who thought his body was imperishable, he was super strong, and he had so much on the physical body, leave the mental strength and the emotional strength that you could have had. And to hear a news in 2002 to 2004, I'm going to cover that entire synopsis, that you were reached end stage renal failure, you had cancer in your kidney, you were supposed to go on dialysis, because I remember you telling me, even when they found out you had end stage renal failure, you always thought it was reversible. You never thought it was.
Yes.
So how did you feel mentally at that point of time?
It is a terrible thing for a person who's fit or who thought he was fit, who could do everything, enjoying life, progressing, looking at things in a very positive way, to be on a bed and to be associated with the machine thrice a week and for 4 hours minimum a day. So that is a very, very tough thing. In fact, when the first femoral dialysis was taking place, it's a very painful process. Anybody who's been through femoral dialysis, it was very tough. Now, there are some people who would like to know this in Hindi. So, मैं उनको ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि मैं ये नहीं सोच पाया था कि डायलिसिस से मेरा किडनी ठीक नहीं हो जाएगा। मुझे ये समझाया ही नहीं पहले गया था। मैंने कहा ये भी दूसरे इलाज की तरह है, 2-3 डायलिसिस करेंगे ठीक हो जाएगा। बट इट इज नॉट टू बी देयर। शोनो लो बैटरी रखा चेक टू प्लीज हेल्प। तो इसलिए आदमी को समझने में it is a shock. It's an amazing, absolute shock, because then you know that you are stuck to this hospital or hospitals, doctors, medicines, and awful kind of food. Your entire food changes. Your intake of water is absolutely reduced. You undergo constipation. You undergo so many other problems. It's horrifying, absolutely. But then, if you have the patience, if you have your family support, that is the most important. My wife was more positive than I was. So that's what it is. Here I am. After a while, I'll get her also on this show, if you feel like. And you can ask her a couple of questions. She'll answer that. तो ये होता है, ये देखिए आपका परिवार आपके साथ हो, थोड़ी सी अंदर से ये ताकत हो तो आप कर सकते हैं। हमारे बैटरीटा बंद होते जाते हैं। अच्छा, so sorry, I was talking to this lady. Here is my support. I'll get her later on show. This is Marianne, that's Mr. Shah, and there are lots of people looking at this show.
Okay.
Huh? Okay.
Such a wonderful support. So
yes, this was tremendous support. You see, this kind of support, it's only those who are gifted by God get it. Nobody else does. You are also one of them. You've given you are a donor to your husband. Nothing like it. So absolutely amazing. It's very, very brave. Sorry, I digressed. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's go ahead.
So I wanted to ask you, so while you were on this journey of starting dialysis and all that stuff, were you normally serving on duty? How did you
Yes. I used to go to I used to go to my office regularly.
Okay.
There was no if and buts as far as that is concerned, because you have to invariably do what you're supposed to do. You can't be on leave endlessly. You see, for All India service officers, you have a period called 1 year leave for medical purposes. Then you have earned leave. You must have earned some amount of leave. Then you have leave on half average pay, which comes to about 6 months. And then you have leave without pay. So leave without pay is not a solution. Leave on half average pay is also not a solution. तो छुट्टी लेने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी नॉर्मल डेज में, मगर हर दिन रोज मैं ऑफिस जरूर जाता था जब भी ऑफिस खुला होता था. वी हैव अ 5-day वीक, 5 days वीक. तो 5 days में जाते थे. आई यूज्ड टू समहाउ मैनेज टू हैव एटलीस्ट वन ऑन द सैटरडे और संडे, one dialysis.
Anandji, as you're saying it, you just say it so easily and so effortlessly, but as a person who lives with another warrior, I know it is not as, at least I'm assuming it is not as easy as you're saying, because I think there's so much of challenges when you have to actually put that into practice.
It's huge. It's huge. The amount of challenge is massive. I'll tell you, after, you see, when I broke my hip, that was a very normal thing to happen. There was AV necrosis. It had to be replaced. है ना? और many बहुतों को एवी नेक्रोसिस होगा जो ट्रांसप्लांट करवाते हैं, वो स्टेरॉइड के चलते होता है। एवी नेक्रोसिस जो है वो हिप बोन में खून पहुंचने बंद हो जाता है, तो कोलैप्स जरूर करेगा और आपको रिप्लेस जरूर कराना पड़ेगा। तो 2008, that is after my transplant in 2006, 2008 March, I had to undergo that.
Okay.
And I still am living with it.
I'm going to ask you once again.
Or yes, at that time I had to go on a wheelchair to go to office. So fortunately, I was in a post where I used to get a vehicle. So I used to get into the vehicle. The wheelchair will be kept in the dicky. I'll go to the office. It was a fairly isolated office, so no, not a big issue. Take it out, get onto the this thing, and use the wheelchair to get behind the table. Then you are working.
At any point of time, did you have this feeling that life is anyway thrown so much of challenges at me and it's time to take a break? And did you feel like giving up on your professional journey at any given point?
No, कभी नहीं लगा कि मुझे अपना जर्नी छोड़ देना चाहिए, कभी नहीं लगा। हाँ, I definitely felt overawed by the situation. Sometimes felt like giving up, but here is this lady you just saw. She always was with me, around me, with me. So that was not a question. But this happens to everybody. Anybody who has undergone CKD, anybody who is in this journey, he thinks, why me?
Absolutely.
Why me? Huh? I have been good, I have been praying, I have been going to church or temple or whatever it is, etc., etc., etc. I have not hurt anybody. Why me? So your belief in God probably reduces, which is a very wrong thing. If you have a faith and belief, keep it there. You are destined to have it. You've had it.
So what I understand is you are unshakable. You knew this is where you want to go, and your disease.
Yes.
Was your aim in life to always become in the highest rank? And so was your aim in life always to serve in the highest rank as DGP, or did it just happen?
Any UPSC aspirant getting into the services invariably looks at the topmost chair and tries to design his or her service to get to it. However, it is definitely the God's grace, I would say, to those people who get that. Okay. You don't probably get everything in life, but you do get something.
I like what he said, they designed their survey to get there, but your designing must have been one good tuning up and on the spot.
It was luck. I am a non-political person. You must have, you have done your Google this thing. You must have found out. I was a non-political person in a state like Uttar Pradesh. There are so many regional, it is full of regional parties. Right now, of course, a central party is ruling, but it also behaves in a regional fashion when it is in power. So you had to be an acolyte of somebody, and I never was. I never was. In fact, 2014, I got the elections conducted of Lok Sabha. And there was an opposition government here. There was a Samajwadi government in UP, and Mr. Modi came to power. That's it.
Your data is when you're doing all this, you're back on dialysis also.
No, back on dialysis at the end of my tenure. While I was doing this, yes, I was undergoing a lot of stress. I could understand that if I maybe resigned or if I just shut up, I could have probably prolonged this for a long time. But then it was not to be. Once you have accepted a challenge, once you have got there, you have to go ahead. आपको करते रहना पड़ेगा. आप अगर कोई चीज करना चाहते हैं, रुकिए मत. रुकेंगे, दिक्कत आएगी. आगे बढ़ जाइए.
It's just amazing, Mr. Anand. I'm going to come back to you on your journey, and I'm just going to conclude what your journey was post your second transplant in the year 2015, because Mr. Anand could have done so many things with his time, because he served at the highest post and now he's back on dialysis, and then he had his transplant. Did he actually retire from life or no?
No. आप लाइफ से कैसे रिटायर कर सकते हो? आई लव गोइंग फॉर अ वॉक। वो ले आओ, कोई स्टूल ले आओ यार, यहाँ रखो। I love going for a walk, and on those when my AV necrosis was getting worse, and when I was on dialysis, I used to go to that park where I take a walk. It's a big park, very big park in Lucknow, and I used to think that will I walk again? क्या मैं फिर से चलूँगा? क्योंकि AV necrosis भी तंग कर रहा है, dialysis भी हो रही है, सारी चीजें हैं. But we got back. You see, it is only a matter of time, matter of faith, and trust yourself. थोड़ा सा तो अपने में trust करिए. I'm not saying that you will succeed every time. हर बार आप succeed करेंगे. But कोशिश करने में क्या बुराई है? You have to try. Try is the essential item. You have to try. करना पड़ेगा.
Thank you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you.
And
If that is the end, I'd like to give one message to all my kidney warriors.
come back to you again. I'm going to come back to you.
Yes, एक minute के लिए, just 1 minute. This is a message for those who follow in English, and again, I'll be talking in Hindi to those who are following this in Hindi also, or rather who are seeing this and understand Hindi much better. My problem started because I was actually unaware of where I was headed. If I knew at the point of 1.2 that these are the things that are going to happen, I wish I had met Vasundhara ji earlier. I wish I was part of KWF earlier. I would have been able to delay that for at least 20 years because I was in very good physical condition, given all other parameters. And there is an excellent hospital right next to me, SGPGI. It has got one of the biggest renal departments, and some of those guys are phenomenally good, phenomenally good. But there was nobody to advise me. So if you ever get an opportunity of seeing a person who has a creatinine of 1.2 and other CKD related issues, try and convince them that it is possible, not maybe to stop it, but delay the disaster for a long, long time. हिंदी में देखिए, मुझे समस्या जो हुई वो इसलिए हुई क्योंकि जब मेरा क्रेटिनिन धीरे धीरे चढ़ के 1.2, 1.3 पहुंचा और बीपी में इरेगुलर नापा करता था, तो मुझे ये आइडिया ही नहीं था, किसी ने मुझे ये बताया ही नहीं था कि सीकेडी क्या होता है, आगे चल के क्या हो सकता है और इसकी क्या क्या दिक्कतें हैं, कॉम्प्लिकेशंस क्या क्या हैं. अगर उस समय पता चल गया होता, हो सकता है, हाँ ये मैं मानता हूं कि सीकेडी इरिवर्सिबल है. हो सकता है अगर मुझे ढंग से बताया गया होता, किसी ने काउंसिल किया होता, जैसे KWF पे आजकल हो रहा है, पहले भी होता आया है, नॉलेज बढ़ता है, तो उस चीज को डिले किया जा सकता था, उसको और धीमा किया जा सकता था और लाइफ की क्वालिटी मच बेटर होती. आपकी स्थिति आती, जैसे आजकल इसमें देखता हूँ KWF पे लोग बताते हैं कि वो CKD 2 हैं, 3 हैं, इतने साल रोक रखा है, इतने साल रोक रखा है. क्या किया? डाइट किया, अच्छी तरह से एक्सरसाइज लिया, फूड, मेडिसिन एटसेट्रा, हर चीज में केयरफुल रहना पड़ेगा. तो आपको जब मालूम ही नहीं है तो आप केयरलेस हो जाएंगे. तो अगर आपको कभी मौका मिले ऐसे लोगों से मिलने का जो कि सीकेडी की शुरुआत पे बैठे हैं, उनको बताइए कि कैसे इसको उस जगह रोका जा सकता है और इसकी गति को और धीमी की जा सकती है. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Anand ji, and I'd like to just end it with your retired life because I'm sure it'll be an inspiration for a lot of people out there. After retiring as DGP of Uttar Pradesh and his second transplant, he couldn't serve in posting because he served at the highest posting. So he took his entire life given for service, and he does a lot of awareness on law and order. He publishes articles. He's writing his own story. In fact, he counsels CKD patients because, like you heard him say, the one thing that he felt that was he was not aware of is the awareness of the disease, and he's keeping himself so busy. Like I said, just
I keep going on TV. for law and order purposes. All the channels they called me.
So I think you've.
Minus Arnab Goswami.
I think it's such an inspiration that I think a lot of our youngsters, not just youngsters, I think all our warriors should take from there. Thank you, Anandji. I'm going to come back with you, and I'm going to mute you for now, and I'm going to ask Mr. Kamal to please open up his channel.
Yeah.
All right, Kamal. I'll tell you when I actually came to know about you. So I am an event manager basically, and I was thinking of doing something for the dialysis and transplant patients, and I really got my mind working of how to create job opportunities for people on dialysis and this. I wanted to create an intellectual property using my experience. And Dr. Shankar is a Suresh in Chennai Nephropolis. He was our first, he's a good friend and a well-wisher, a little angel also in our life. And I remember calling him, I'm telling him, Doc, I need to do something, Doc. And this was the plans I had. I was sharing my plans with him. And he said, Marian, more than anything, if you can do something for corporate employment with your experience, because I specialize in corporate events, will be great. And the next thing he says is, please take your ideas and please discuss it with Kamal Shah. That's first time I heard about you a couple of years back. And I was like, okay, and then I go Googling who was Kamal Shah, and then of course I got to know a little bit about you. And then I had stumbled upon another idea in which I wanted to do. And when I was discussing a talk show, even I remember talking to Ayaz about it, one of our warriors from Hyderabad. He said, you should talk to Kamal Shah, Marian. And any idea that I wanted to do to give back to the community, the one person that I was constantly directed to was Kamal Shah. So that is my introduction for you as a person. So I know there's something that you're doing out there that's right from the heart. But while you're doing all this from the heart, let me actually share your journey and how you still manage to do this so effortlessly, so beautifully, and from such a wonderful place. Okay, so this is what I understand from Kamal's journey. And of course, Kamal, if you find that I've documented your journey anywhere here and there, you can please tweet me. But in your journey, I'm going to ask you a lot more questions, because behind the screen, I would like to know what all happened. So Kamal was like any normal youngster, probably hunky, strong, hanging around, cool. That's what I'm assuming Kamal would be. And having a ball of his life until he was 21 years old, and he completed his bachelor's in technology. And like any youngster those days, I think his dream was to go to the US and pursue his post-graduation. And like he says, that's the normal thing any youngster would have done who foreseen his future. I was trying to understand what your mind must have been going through. Of what do I choose? Do I go to the US? Which country do I go to? And all that was running in your head. And I'm assuming, this is what I was assuming when I was writing your biodata, by the way. You said, okay, US is the place and it's the right place for me to go to. And obviously before applying, you had your protocols, of which one of it was your general vaccinations that one would take before going to the US. I like the one word, the one statement that you made, and I'm going to use it not now, but forever probably in my life. It was not a plan, it happened just like that. And the way you said it, I was like, wow, some turning point in his life. And then I go to see, wow, yes, it was a turning point in his life. And this is what happened. It just happened by him taking the regular vaccinations that he should have taken while he was getting ready to go to US and processing his visa. And he was told that he will be having light temperature for some of the vaccinations. And he did have light temperature, and he took it, okay, I've got temperature, which was meant to happen. And then it didn't just become a light temperature. I think the temperature got worse, and it also accompanied by nausea. You started vomiting, and that's when you got a little alarmed and you went to the doctor. And your visit to the doctor was something that we all want to be the 1 in a million or 2 in a million. But I'm not sure if this condition was one of the most proudest moments, because you were diagnosed with a rare disease that will be with 2 to 3 in a million, and it was called atypical HUS. Okay, right. Let's stop right there. How did you feel receiving that information when you were getting ready for a future ahead of you? What was in your mind?
So at that point, the doctors did not say that it's going to turn out like this, you know. they told me that HUS, and at that point, very little was known about this disease. Now, in the last 20, 25 years, a lot more research has happened and a lot more is known about this disease. But at that point, my doctors thought it's a temporary condition. It's an acute condition because it happened suddenly. You know, it happened all of a sudden. Chronic kidney disease happens gradually. The kidney function declines over a period of years. For me, it happened at one shot. And typically for acute cases where kidney function declines all of a sudden, kidney function recovers all of a sudden after a period of 1 week or 10 days. So my doctors told me at that point, this is a temporary setback. In a week or 10 days, you'll be fine. And then, you know, you can go back to your plans for going to the US. So initially, you know, I thought it's a temporary thing. I never realized it would turn out like this.
So you had hopes. So when did you actually realize those hopes were slowly sliding?
So, you know, when the 1 week, 10 days finished, I asked my doctor, what's happening? Like, you know, why am I not off dialysis yet? So the doctor said, yeah, I mean, you know, you can't say exactly 7 to 10 days. It may take another few more days, 1 week. And then that became 2 weeks, then became 3 weeks. You know, when it crossed a month or 1.5 months, at that point, I thought, okay, these guys are just, you know, taking me for a ride. I think this is going to be a longer journey. So after about 1.5, 2 months, I kind of thought, okay, this is not a reversible thing. This is going to go on for a little longer.
So great. And then you went on to have your transplant in the year 1998, and not something that any transplant person would want to hear. After 11 days, you started having problems with your kidney. On the 20th day, your kidney had failed because the primary disease reoccurred once again, and the HUS was back. And you were, within 20 days, you were back on dialysis. And how did that feel at that point of time?
So that was a huge setback because I thought, you know, when we were getting ready for the transplant, I thought, okay, this is it. You know, this is the end of all my problems. I'm going to, you know, get back to a normal life. I'm going to get my life back. I'll probably, you know, apply for admission to universities, go get back to the US and, you know, continue with my life. And I really thought that this is, you know, the end of all my problems. But then when the transplant failed, I was like devastated. I was very shaken, and I, you know, for a short while, not for a long time, but you know, I was very, very upset. And then I did not give up though, because I thought that, okay, the transplant has failed, now what? And I started researching on the internet for other options. And at that point, the internet was new to India, 97, 98. It had just come in recent at that point. And then I started researching a lot on the internet about, got onto some dialysis groups, and I read about peritoneal dialysis, which appealed to me a lot. So I went back to my doctor and I said, when one of my dialysis sessions, I went back to my doctor and I told them that, doctor, I read about something called peritoneal dialysis on the internet, which seemed to be a good therapy. Can I opt for that? So, and for some reason, you know, I thought the doctor would say, no, you're not suitable for PD. You cannot do PD. You have to continue on hemodialysis. And I was absolutely sure that he was going to say that. So I was very pleasantly surprised when he said, no, of course you can do PD. I'll get in touch with the Baxter coordinator and then they can come and set things up and you can switch to PD. And I said, oh, that was pretty easy. I didn't expect it to go that easy. So then, you know, I switched to PD, and then for me, you know, honestly, the transplant did not work, but PD gave me my life back, you know, because I really loved the life on PD. It gave me a lot of freedom. I did not have to come to the hospital, no needles, no dialysis, no blood coming out of the body, no less diet and fluid restrictions. And I started working at that point. So PD really gave me my life back, but yes, the transplant was a huge setback.
And while this was happening in 97 to 97 to 99, you went back to studying in India. What were you doing that time?
No, I wasn't studying. So 97, I completed my bachelor's, and then I did not do anything till about 99 March, when I switched to PD. Once I switched to PD, at that point, I started working.
Okay. And so 6 years you were in peritoneal dialysis. And can you tell me what were you doing at that point and where were you working?
Yes. So 99 March, when I started doing PD, like I said, my life came back to normal. So the whole thing around not going to hospital, to be able to take control of your health in your own hands, to do PD on your own, that gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of, you know, a feeling of normalcy. So I got in touch with my mother's friend who was running a software company in Hyderabad, and I started working for them part-time. I started learning software development, and I started working I went to their office part-time, and I did the rest of the work from my home after coming back home. So I was working pretty much full-time. That went on for about a year, and then I got in touch with one of our family friends, and we started a software development company right here in Hyderabad. So it was called Effigent. We co-founded it I co-founded it in 2000, the year 2000. And we set up an office in the US as well for the marketing, and a development office in Hyderabad. And then I was, pretty much running the technical part of the development office in Hyderabad. And we ran that company. And so during that entire period from 99 to about 2004, this whole thing went on beautifully because I was doing PD, working full time. I would do my second and third exchange in my office, in a cabin in the office, and the first and the fourth exchange I would do at home. And I was leading, like, I mean, nobody could tell if they saw me that I was a dialysis patient. I was completely normal. I was playing table tennis. I was going out on a holiday. I went to Mahabaleshwar. I went to Kodaikanal with my parents for a holiday, Darjeeling as well. So I was leading a completely normal life, working full time, traveling, exercising, playing sports, going for movies, completely normal life till 2004.
So if I've got this right, till 2004, you were working in a software company. Then you started up your own software company, and you were doing pretty well for yourself, taking all the advantage of peritoneal dialysis and working to your professional excellence. And there comes 2004. We have come and landing up in my city, Chennai, in a very beautiful historical place. And unfortunately, the city is normally a very beautiful city, but unfortunately, he was there at the wrong time. And this was in one of the most beautiful places in Chennai, which is Mahabalipuram. But this was during the tsunami. And I never got much glimpse of what happened there, but I know it was a horrifying experience. So can you share a little bit of that experience, please?
In fact, when Anandji was talking about his 2004 December 26th, I kind of immediately noted that date. 26th December 2004 was the date of the tsunami, when I was almost swept away by the tsunami waters. I was neck deep in water. We were on a cottage right on a beach in Mahabalipuram, at a resort in Mahabalipuram. And I had just finished my morning exchange and was watching TV, ordered a plate of idli, and was munching on my breakfast. And at that point, suddenly water entered into the room. And I was wondering, what the hell is this? Like, why is water entering into the room? And then, but within a few seconds, I could barely realize I was neck deep in water. And the door was jammed. It was not opening, the door of the cottage. And the water level was going on increasing. When I looked around me, I saw the refrigerator, the TV, the bed, all bobbing up and down in the water. And I was shocked. I had no clue what was happening. My friend who was staying with me in the same room, he somehow managed to open the door with a lot of force. And we were as if we were in a huge ocean. And we had no clue what was happening. We didn't know that it was tsunami. All we knew that we were in water. Then somehow he managed to pull himself out of the room, and he pulled me as well. And we held on to the parapet, the chhaja of the room, and somehow just managed to drag ourselves out of the water to a higher ground. And at that point, we just gathered whatever belongings we could and rushed to the terrace of one of the buildings at the back. And at that point, somebody came and told us this was a huge tsunami that has occurred. And at that point, we realized what it was. We had no clue. And then when the water receded after about a couple of hours, at that point, we just gathered whatever we could and then took a taxi and came back to Chennai. We drove straight to Apollo Greaves Road, and I just walked into the casualty. And I told somebody, you have to come and dress my exit side, the PD exit side where the catheter comes out, because I was scared that catheter would get infected, because that's dirty water from the ocean with all kinds of muck, we don't know what. And I walked into the casualty and I requested them, and then they brought in a dressing tray, and I did the exit side dressing myself to just see what could happen. But unfortunately, that tsunami ruined my catheter, and eventually I ended up with a series of exit site infections and peritonitis. We fought those infections for the entire 2005, and which again brought me to Anandji's bad 2005. 2005 was as bad for me as well. I don't know what is special about that year, but both of us seem to have had a horrible 2005. Struggled throughout that year with PD infections, removing the catheter, putting in a new catheter, came back to Chennai to meet Dr. George Abraham and take his advice about what to do about the PD catheter. He said, you can't, this thing is done. I mean, you can't do PD anymore. And I was devastated because PD had given me my life back and I was doing so well on PD. I did not feel like a patient. So then I went back to my nephrologist in Hyderabad, Dr. Girish Narayan, and told him that, doctor, so PD is not an option. So what do I do? And by that time I was already back on hemodialysis, but we were just trying to see how I could go back to PD. But then that was not possible. I asked my Dr. Girish Narayan about, what do you suggest, doctor? He told me that, why don't you opt for daily nocturnal home hemodialysis? So then I said, what is that? I mean, home hemodialysis, how can you do hemodialysis at home? And then he said, no, there is an option of doing that. You can read up a little on the internet. So I went back to my good friend Google and I looked up about daily nocturnal home hemodialysis, found a lot of good stuff being said about home hemodialysis. And then I, made the switch to daily nocturnal home hemo. This was in 2006. Yes.
So I'm going to ask you what happened behind the screens in terms, because I'm really trying to get our warriors to understand. One is the journey, two is what happens behind. So while all this was happening, were you still working? Were you still running the software company?
Yes, I was. So that I made sure that did not affect my work at all. So PD, as long as PD was there was no problem. Then the tsunami happened. I had to give up PD. I had to come out to hemodialysis. So I made sure that I would go for the session early in the morning or after my work. I made sure that I did not let my work get disrupted because of the dialysis. Because I believe that, that is something I owed to my work. And another thing, more importantly, I enjoyed my work. Because I felt that if I don't work all the time, I'm going to just sit and think and get depressed about my disease. I'm going to think, what the hell is this? I mean, why me? And, why not somebody else? And how is that guy leading a normal life? And what did he do that I didn't do? And, all that negative spiral of thought that would come in. And I enjoyed my work. For me, work was, why I got out of bed every morning, because I loved the work. I loved interacting with people. I loved developing cool products. So for me, work, I made sure that dialysis did not impact my work. I never in my office would anybody say that because of Kamal's dialysis, our work is getting impacted. Nobody would ever say that. And everybody would be, in fact, inspired that despite my dialysis, I'm working full time and leading a completely normal life. And this, then when I switched to daily nocturnal, again, everything came back to normal because I would dialyze at night. So for me, always, it was a matter of never using dialysis as an excuse to reduce the amount of work or to get a credit at work or get a reason to escape from my work. It was never that thought didn't even cross my mind. It was just, how do you fit both together? I mean, you need to do both. How do you fit both? Figure it out. That's it.
I really like that statement that you said. How do you fit both together? Figure it out. You have no choice. And then I think everybody will start looking at a choice to make up by fitting both together. I think most of us, at least a lot of people that I know, have used not being able to get back to their regular work because of the fact that they had to do dialysis 3 or 4 times a week, and that became a reason. And then they eventually felt they were even worthless because you're not working, you're not doing anything, your life is only about dialysis, and it's not a very good place to put yourself into more than getting yourself there. Well, I'm going to come back a lot more questions on that, but while this was happening between 2004 to 2006, and we heard that it was a very traumatizing, horrifying experience, and something that he loved the most, peritoneal dialysis had to be stopped, but he was still working, and then everything was going good, and yet life took a hold. But something interesting started happening in 2005, which I'd like to mention, that Kamal got to blogging, and he started blogging obviously I'm guessing you were blogging to vent out and tell the world how you're feeling. I'm just assuming. I never Googled that, but that's what exactly I would do. And he started talking about health and on, I think probably the CKD journey is what you were. When you started blogging, was it to just express yourself to the world how you feel, or was it just the frustration of life? And what was the perspective that you took to blogging?
So one thing is I love to write, right? For me, English was one of my favorite subjects in school, and I just love to write. And I thought that I've had, I've seen everything a kidney patient in India would see. So I've done dialysis I've done dialysis in the hospital. I've done peritoneal dialysis. I've had a transplant. Now I'm doing home hemodialysis. I thought people should know about this because there are so many things that I saw all around me. There was so much frustration, so much despair, so much depression. And I thought that doesn't need to be like that. Look at me. I mean, I'm leading a normal life. And anybody ran into me in the street, they would never ever guess that I'm a dialysis patient. So why can't others be like this? Why do people have to live in so much misery on dialysis? I thought people should know that what are the things that you can do to lead a normal life. And I really believed that I felt sorry for so many people. Like when I would go for dialysis to a center, I find people coming in panting into the center, like just wanting to get onto the machine so as fast as possible so that their excess fluid can be pulled out. I've seen such cases around me. So I thought, why does it have to be like that? Why can't dialysis be more pleasant? Why can't it be why can't it be a happy experience? Why can't people look at it as something that they need to do to feel better? I mean, why do the people look at it as a punishment? While that process may not be pleasant, we need to understand that it allows us to prolong our life and lead a life which is full, which we can be proud of, which we can be happy in. So I really wanted to just spread the message that dialysis need not be like what it is right now. You can lead a normal life on dialysis. You can work on dialysis. You can play a sport on dialysis. I was swimming every morning. I love to swim. I would never miss swimming for anything in the world. So I was swimming even in the peak winter in Hyderabad. So I wanted to tell people that you can do all that. You can go for a movie. You can go out and eat. What is stopping you? Why chain yourself in fetters that are not existent? That is what I wanted to tell people. And that is one of the main reasons I started blogging. And if you see my early posts, it's a lot about, how I managed to bring all these elements into my life despite being on dialysis. I think that was one of the main reasons I was blogging. And then I got very good response when I started blogging. A lot of patients reached out to me with problems that they're having. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I could give them a patient's perspective on what they can do to, change their life. Many doctors also started following my blog, and they would write to me and compliment me for the advice that I was giving. So it definitely struck a chord with people who were reading it, and that encouraged me a lot, and I kept writing on those lines. Of course, I'm a big foodie, so I wrote a lot about food as well. So I love to write, and I wrote about a variety of topics, a lot of it related to dialysis.
And for those of you who have not actually checked out his blogs, he's got about 8 lakh views. If I've got it right, I don't know the numbers would have increased, with about 1,100 posts available. And of course, that was a number I got from Google for sure. I'm not sure if I've got that number right. But however, little did he know that this blog that he was writing of expressing himself to actually make a difference to the community from his own journey. And that's the beauty. That's what caught, and that spoke a lot about you as a person. You want to just share your knowledge, but little did you know that that would catch somebody's attention. And I'm just going to mention what happened that we all know, and then we know what happened behind the screen. We had a seasoned healthcare strategic consultant from McKinsey who really found your blogging really interesting, and he gave you a phenomenal opportunity that you couldn't say no to. And this was, by now we are in the year 2009. So can you give me a little bit of an insight, because that became a new career opportunity completely for you, because this is the birth of Nephroplus, which is India's largest dialysis network that's creating a huge difference in the life of every CKD person who's been there. And Sumit used to go there, my husband used to go there, so I know the kind of quality dialysis that they do, the environment, the love, the care. It's brilliant, Kamal. Thank you so much for that wonderful work that you've done with the community. And this comes from the bottom of my heart. But let's get back to what happened by this gentleman.
So 2008, we sold off our company, that Efficient software company. We sold it to another company, and I took up a job as a software developer in a company called Green. And I was working there, and then suddenly one day in 2009, mid of 2009, I got an email from Vikram Uppala. I had no clue who he was, but he was a strategy consultant from McKinsey and was looking to start something in healthcare in India. So I just got a random email from him saying that, hey, Kamal, I'm Vikram and I'm so-and-so. And I'm looking to start something in India. And I stumbled upon your blog when I was researching on dialysis in India, and I sat up whole night and I read, a lot of your posts, and I was really amazed at the way so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. So he said we should meet up and discuss more. So I said, happy to meet always. So we met for breakfast after a couple of days. And then he started talking about this whole idea of changing the way dialysis was done in India. And it hugely appealed to me because I said that this is absolutely what is needed. I mean, and honestly, while I always had this thought at the back of my mind that something needs to be changed, I mean, I always thought that what could I alone do, with limited resources. And after all, I'm on dialysis. Okay, I'm a normal guy, but still, I mean, alone, it's very daunting to do anything like that. So when Vikram came into the picture, and I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity. And I joined hands with him. We co-founded, and there was another third guy called Sandeep Gudibanda, who was in ISB. He completed his MBA from ISB. Three of us got together and we started this company where we thought that we should completely change the way dialysis is done in India, and we should do everything from the patient's perspective. Because logically, the patient should be the one who's at the center of the universe in the dialysis ecosystem, because he's the one who's being treated or she's the one who's being treated. But unfortunately, hospitals look at it from their perspective, nephrologists from theirs, providers from theirs, but nobody was looking at the patient. So then we thought that NephroPlus would be a company that would keep the patient at the center of the universe. And every single decision in NephroPlus is done keeping the patient in mind. And that is what our philosophy was, keep the patient in the center of the universe and do everything that is right for the patient. So that is the philosophy that we started the company with.
That's so amazing. And so when NephroPlus was founded, just for you guys, so today NephroPlus is available around, we have 64 centers. Is the number right? Or we have
No. Now we have 230 centers.
230 centers, still 45 cities, or you?
Oh, we have about 130 cities now. We are in 3 countries as well. We are in Philippines, Nepal, and India. So we've expanded. I think that information is probably a couple of years old or so.
Yeah, and now you know why I said I'm so proud to be sharing the screen with these two lovely gentlemen. And personally, I would want to tell you, because I started documenting my caregiving journey as well. And one of the things that I spoke about is backpacking and travel. And of course, I backpacked soon as Sumit finished his 8 months of transplant and we took off to Vietnam. But my exposure of travel would directly or indirectly be thankful to you, because he was in NephroPlus. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you, because you may not know what is happening behind the screens. You could have done it, but I can tell you what I've done. And this could have been about a good 7 years back. And Dr. Suresh was my doctor, and we would do dialysis, and then we go for a long holiday for 3-4 weeks, and we'll do dialysis in Goa and other parts of the country, and then we come back. And today I speak to so many caregivers to just live normal lives, go travel, do stuff. And why I say this, I also know that NephroPlus has also started a holiday dialysis. Can you say something about that, and where did that come from?
So I think holiday dialysis, I love to travel, so for me, one of the biggest reasons I switched to PD was the ability to travel. And when I travel is an extremely a big part of my life. Of course, now during the pandemic, it has completely gone out of the window. But until then, I used to travel a lot. And so we thought that any dialysis patient, right, for them to travel is a challenge. It's a scary thing because nobody knows what is the quality of the dialysis center, wherever they are going. So they are extremely apprehensive that how will the cannulation be? I mean, what will be the protocols there? Will I get cross-infected hepatitis C, hepatitis B, HIV? So a lot of people just avoid travel. They say no travel. I mean, I'm happy here. Life is going well. I'll be here only. But then we said, no, that should not be the case. People on dialysis should travel and they can travel. So how about introducing a program called holiday dialysis, where we will take care of everything. I mean, you just tell us where you want to go, what are the dates, how many people, and so on, and we'll take care of everything. And the most important part is you are assured of a good quality dialysis session. So that was a huge, and we make sure that all the protocols across all our centers are standardized. So it's not that when you go to our Goa center, you'll find different protocols from, let's say, a Chennai center. So we try to make sure that every center is following the same standard operating protocols. So, and then we introduced this holiday dialysis program, and the response was phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people who haven't traveled from the time they were on dialysis, they started taking opportunity, and we don't charge anything for this program. It's just the regular dialysis cost. At cost, it is given. There is no additional charge for setting up the bookings and so on. So, that gave a lot of people a huge opportunity to travel with their mind fully at ease, that, okay, no tension, I'm going to go get dialysis at the same quality, same kind of protocols. I'm happy. I'm there at a safe location. So that was one of I'm really happy that we introduced that, because I get emails from so many people who've taken that opportunity, and they are like this, they're just so happy that they were able to travel after so many years, so that's a huge thing that I personally gives me a lot of satisfaction that we were able to do that.
Well, holiday dialysis is not the only thing that Nephroplus went to do. You guys also went to do something called the Dialysis Olympiad. So what was that all about? Where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, the Dialysis Olympiad was, again, it was Vikram's idea. He said that, since he knew I was swimming, and he kind of had seen so many dialysis patients worried about, playing a game. Many people used to play table tennis or cricket or badminton before they got diagnosed. And after they got diagnosed, for whatever reason, they kind of stopped playing those games. But we said, no, that should not be the case. People on dialysis should exercise. They should do strength training. They should look after their bodies, even things other than dialysis. They should lead a normal life. Exercise, playing a sport is a part of normal life. So we said, why don't we organize an Olympiad, which is an Olympic style event only for dialysis patients. So we had the first one in 2015 in Hyderabad, where all the dialysis patients of the country were invited to come to that stadium. It was a one-day event where they participated in games like badminton, table tennis, cricket, running, walking, cycling, and lot of such games. And then the winners were given gold, silver, and bronze medals at the end of the day. And they had a lot of fun, and we had a dialysis-friendly meal for them in the afternoon. So it was a day where we wanted to, and the theme of that is the will to win. So we wanted to say that dialysis patients also have the will to win. And that was a huge morale booster for those on dialysis. So, and even for the elderly patients who came, we had non-stress games like maybe Sudoku or chess or those kind of caroms. So there is one very sweet picture of an old lady, maybe about 70 years old, who was playing caroms during that dialysis Olympiad. And one of her relatives saw that picture on her Facebook, and she was so happy to see that lady playing caroms. So these are the things that give dialysis patients a feeling of normalcy in their lives. So you get them to play a game, get them to compete in a table tennis tournament or a badminton tournament. They feel so good, and they get back their confidence. At the end of the day, they feel that, I mean, what the hell? Like, why was I not doing this all these years? And then many of them, they take up the sport after the Olympiad. They go back, and we've had the Olympiad 3 times so far. So we've had it in 2015 in Hyderabad, then 2017 we did it in Delhi, and 2019 we did it in Pune. All 3 Olympiads, we had a phenomenal response, and it was so nice to see all those dialysis patients. Not only Nephroplus, we invite all dialysis patients of the country to come and have a great time for a day there.
Wow, that was some kind of an experience, right, Anandji? I can see Anandji is so happy and contented that, wow, so much of
He's on mute. I think he's trying to say something, but he's on.
That was superb, Mr. Shah.
Thank you.
Excellent. But may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you from Gujarat?
Yeah, born and brought up in Hyderabad, but basically a Gujarati.
I'm also trained in Hyderabad. Don't worry. National Police Academy is there.
Okay.
But I'm very, very, very impressed. And I'll get in touch with you.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You were super.
So, sorry, go on, Mr. Anand. You said something.
Okay.
Kamal, one thing that I realized from your journey is I think it was a pure passion that kept you growing. And I think, I don't know whether it was done intentionally or just happened. And I certainly believe that's the best way to create a difference to the community, to the world, to the country. I mean, to just people. You took your journey. You knew what the difficulties you were facing, and you decided to do something about it. Was that something that happened intentionally, or life just presented an opportunity for you?
It was all happenstance. It just happened like that, because see, for example, if Vikram wouldn't have stumbled on my blog, right? then Vikram and I would never have met. If Vikram and I would have never met, I would never have been a part of Nephro Plus, you know. So these are just things that happen by chance. I don't even know what to call it, karma, destiny, fate, God. I don't know what to call it, honestly. But these things happened just like that. If Vikram wouldn't have stumbled upon my blog, no, this wouldn't have happened.
At the same time, I would.
Hello?
No, are we disconnected?
Yeah, but I think Marianne has got disconnected.
But then you carry on. आप हिंदी में अगर बोल सके तो बोल दीजिए, बताइए लोगों को, सुन रहे होंगे वो मैरियन तो आ जाएंगी.
उनका क्वेश्चन मैंने नहीं सुना, वो क्वेश्चन नहीं
उनका क्वेश्चन नहीं, आप दूसरों को कोई एडवाइस करना चाहते हैं वो करिए ना.
जरूर. तो मेरा सिर्फ ये कहना है कि डायलिसिस पे आने के बाद हमको ये नहीं समझना चाहिए कि हमारी लाइफ पूरी हो गई है, हमारी खत्म हो गई है, हम बिस्तर पर ही लेटे रहेंगे. ऐसा नहीं सोचना है. हमें पहले मन में तय करना है. हमारे शरीर हमारे मन की बात सुनेगा. बहुत लोग ये समझते हैं कि जब डायलिसिस पे आ जाते हैं तो मेरी लाइफ खत्म हो गई, लेकिन अगर हम मन में तय कर लें कि नहीं, मैं एकदम नॉर्मल लाइफ जीऊंगा, मैं काम करूंगा, मैं एक्सरसाइज करूंगा, मैं ट्रैवल करूंगा, अगर मन में हम तय कर लें तो शरीर हमारा जरूर साथ देगा. ये हमें बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज ध्यान में रखनी है कि मन को मनाए और शरीर ऑटोमेटिकली आपकी सहायता करेगा. बहुत लोग एक्सरसाइज नहीं करते फॉर एग्जांपल, लेकिन डायलिसिस में आप डॉक्टर के सलाह को लेकर कुछ भी एक्सरसाइज जरूर कीजिए, क्योंकि एक्सरसाइज ना केवल शरीर की को अच्छा रखता है, लेकिन मन को भी एकदम प्रफुल्लित रखता है, एकदम आनंद में रखता है. Marianne, I think you got cut, but glad to have you back. I just kind of giving some tips, but I think you can continue with the question now. You were about to ask a question, right? I can't hear you.
Beauty is you took your. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Yeah, I think the beauty is whether you did it intentionally or just stumbled upon it, the intelligence of seeing the opportunity, which I feel most warriors are failing to see because we are so caught up in our own journey of a little bubble of trouble. And like Anandji said, why me, why me, why me? I think that's the beauty of your journey. But okay, while both you gentlemen had your own beautiful journeys and such an example to people, we're talking about pursuing a passion. Probably not everybody would have this opportunity that you had, Kamal, and what Anandji had as well. What about regular corporate goers who have lost their jobs because they were termed as dialysis patients, and for some reason, people who can't hear have corporate opportunities. To a large extent, people who, I mean, can't speak have corporate opportunities. But what do you have to say? Beautiful corporates out there, whether I'm going to share this video to a lot of HRs and a lot of admins for them to understand that dialysis patients are very normal. Don't you think that there should be more work opportunities? Can you give us a message? I'm going to request Anandji to give us his message first. This is for our corporate clients to create an awareness for job opportunities, and then I'll come back to Kamal to give you guys, and we'll conclude the session.
Mr. Corporate, or those people who are in the HR of corporate, let us understand one thing. A person on dialysis is not a patient really. One of his organs is not working. He is not a mental patient. He is not a patient in any other manner. It is just that unfortunately, his kidneys or the CKD has attacked that person. Look at his productivity. Has he been producing for you? Has he been doing things for you? In case it happened in the recent pandemic, people have had pay cuts, but did you send them home? Mostly you did not. You cut their pays, you cut their DAs, you cut allowances, you permitted them to stay at home, and you let them work from home. Permit the CKD patients, those who are on dialysis, those who are approaching dialysis, this particular opportunity of performing to be able to live, remember, it is not only them who matter, it is also their families which matter, much more than that. And once you have taken, there is something called a CSR, isn't it? Corporate social responsibility.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
You get a tax off. Why don't you invest in these people? You will get this tax off instead of sending it to some weird. I won't name that. I won't name any program where you are going to send that. But here is a real case right in front of you. So my appeal to the Mr. Corporate is, and there are people who do that, please look into this. Don't be so heartless, don't be so mindless, don't be so eyeless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anandji. And yes, I'm going to ask Kamal, very important for you to give a message to the corporates, because I think you know the reality of the situation. You've been there in the corporate. So what do you have to say, Kamal?
Yeah, so I have a message for both corporates and for patients, because this thing cannot be done only with one side of the fence, so both need to understand the expectations and the needs of each other. So first, let me talk about corporates. So I believe that no individual should be rejected from a job just because they are on dialysis or they have kidney disease. That cannot be a factor to reject somebody for a job. Look at it in an objective manner. How is he or she going to perform on other parameters, like on parameters that are relevant for the job? Him or her being on dialysis, there is no impact on the job. There need not be an impact on the job. So look at it from that perspective and don't reject somebody just because they are on dialysis. That is completely unethical and unprofessional. Now coming to the patients, while corporates, once they employ you, you should not use dialysis as an excuse to underperform. Being on dialysis, you can give your 100%. Talk to your managers, talk to the HR, figure out ways by which you can work from home, take a laptop. So NephroPlus, we employ dialysis patients, we employ transplant recipients, and we give them the complete flexibility to work from home, work from the dialysis center. We give them a laptop. And as long as the work does not suffer, we don't care whether they are on dialysis, they've had a transplant. We have people who are working as center managers of centers. We have people working in HR. We have people working as clinical research executives. We have a lot of people working in different departments in NephroPlus. And as long as their work does not suffer, we don't care whether they are going for dialysis, they're working from home, they are at the office. As long as the work does not suffer. That is one important thing that patients should also understand. Never expect concessions from your company just because you're on dialysis. That is unfair, because why should the employer pay you to get less than what he requires from that job? I understand CSR and so on. I understand that aspect, but CSR cannot be done for hundreds and thousands of people. CSR can be done for a few people. That is why dialysis patients, I'm a part of you. I'm a part of the dialysis patients community. We as dialysis patients should never expect a company to give us concessions. We should give our 100%. As long as we give our 100% and show that despite being on dialysis, we are performing as well or better than other employees, nobody will even raise a finger at us. And in the long term, more and more employers will give this opportunity to dialysis patients. People will see other patients working well, and they will not reject people just for the fact that they are on dialysis.
Thank you, Kamal, for that. And I think I'm going to conclude this session by asking both of you once again to give us just one line or two lines, not for the people who have not pursued a corporate job, not for the people who have not pursued their passion, but for those of them who have decided, I am a dialysis victim and I'm not going to work. Please tell them one line, and that would actually wake them up from their seats and start going for an interview tomorrow. Kamal, would you like to start?
Let Anandji start. He's senior and he's
been one line for am I muted or unmuted?
We can hear you, Anandji.
Can hear you.
Achha, okay, fine. One line for, or one or two lines, as Marianne said. Those who have given up, Have you given up on living also? You've not given up on living. तुमने जीना नहीं छोड़ दिया है. तुम जीना भी चाहते हो और कुछ करना भी नहीं चाहते हो, तो क्या फायदा है? कुछ करिए. आज तक till date nobody has achieved anything by not doing something. Please go to anything that you know about, scriptures or whatever you feel like, stories, experiences. You have to fight back, however bad the situation may be. In Hindi it will be said, गिरते हैं शहसवार ही मैदान जंग में, वह तिफल क्या गिरे जो घुटनों के बल चले. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandji. Yes, Kamal, the question is back to you.
Yeah, so I believe that everybody on dialysis needs to have a purpose in their life. जीने का कोई मकसद होना चाहिए. There should be a reason for anybody to get out of their beds every morning and do something. अगर आपके पास काम नहीं है तो दूसरा कोई मकसद ढूंढिए. काम एक आसान तरीका है हमारे जीवन को सुधारने के लिए, हमारे जीवन में एक मकसद लाने के लिए, क्योंकि विदाउट हैविंग अ पर्पस many people just wither away and die. If you don't want to, you should find a purpose, and work is the easiest way to find a purpose in life. You will think about your work, you will stop getting depressed, you will stop thinking about your disease all the time. You will feel much better. You will, believe me, you will feel 100 times better if you start working. I understand it is a challenge to get jobs in these current circumstances, but make an effort, at least try. If you're not able to find a job, take up a part-time job. If not a part-time job, take up a hobby, but find a purpose in life, and you will really feel the difference, not only physically, but mentally as well.
Wow. Thank you both, you lovely gentlemen. My love and my respect for you is actually gone beyond a level that I actually sad to share this forum with you guys. And on behalf of the entire Kidney Warrior community, and of course, for those of them who are not a part of the Kidney Warrior community, but on the CKD journey, I would like to say a thank you to you guys for being such a big inspiration. And I'm sure your stories are going to go out there and touch and change many lives, because I already got a few messages saying, my God, today's session is so inspiring. I just feel like doing something more with my life. And I'm sure this is going to go on. And I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us in spite of your own schedules. And it's a pleasure having you with us. And this is me signing off on the Warriors Journal episode once again, and wishing you both all the very best. May you guys continue to be a blessing to many and be blessed always. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.